Right, the Munich Putsch, or the Beer Hall Putsch, probably one of the most infamous things that goes on in 1923. It's a really cool story. When I teach this, what I like to do is talk about the causes of it, the events of it, and then the results of it. Now, of those three things, the key one is the results, the effects of the Munich Putsch. Not really so much for Germany, but much more for Hitler and the Nazis, because it massively changes the game for them. All right. So, just to recap, the Munich Putsch was 1923. By the way, Putsch is P-U-T-S-C-H. Putsch. Again, pronunciation shocking. The Munich Putsch, or the Beer Hall Putsch. Now, 1923 it took place. Excuse me. That was not a great year for the Weimar Republic at all. The occupation of the Ruhr was happening, hyperinflation was happening, and then to top it all off in November, there was an attempted revolt at the Munich Putsch. Okay? So, the causes of the Munich Putsch are, as I've just stated, occupation of the Ruhr and hyperinflation, and the Weimar Republic being very, very unpopular. Okay? There's a long-term popularity. Many people didn't like it even when it was set up in 1919. But it had become progressively less popular as it had failed to deal with some of the issues that Germany faced. And that all came to a head in 1923 with the occupation of the Ruhr and hyperinflation. So, don't forget, September 1923, Stresemann had called off passive resistance. Now, whilst that was a good idea in the long term, in the short term it was very unpopular, particularly amongst the right wing, who saw the Weimar Republic and Stresemann as being weak and having given in to France and Belgium when they should have stood firm. Okay. So, the right wing groups, interestingly enough, were most popular or powerful or influential in the German state of Bavaria, B-A-V-A-R-I-A, and Munich is in Bavaria, the state of Bavaria. Now, many of these right-wing groups saw Stresemann's decision to end passive resistance as a betrayal to Germany, especially those in the Bavarian state government who were very, very, very right-wing. Now, the thing about November 1923 is that it launches this tiny little party, very unknown regional party, the Nazi Party, and it launched them onto the national stage. And it launched their leader, Adolf Hitler, onto the national stage. Okay. So, that's the causes. Occupation of the Ruhr, hyperinflation, Stresemann calling off passive resistance, and increasing unpopularity of the Weimar Republic amongst some of the right-wing groups of Germany. So, the events started on the 8th of November, 1923. The leaders of Bavaria, there are two main guys, one called Gustav von Kahr, V-O-N, small v, capital K-A-R-R. He was the leader of the Bavarian state government, and then the leader of the Bavarian army was a man called Otto von Lossow, L-O-S-S-O-W, all right? And they were at a beer hall, which is like a massive pub, basically massive area, and with long trestle tables. It's a very good public meeting place because it can seat many, many, many people. And they were at a meeting of about 2,000 right-wing supporters in a beer hall. And suddenly, Hitler and his supporters, the stormtroopers, came in with guns and stuff, and they declared a national revolution, while von Kahr and von Lossow were on the stage, the two key leaders of Bavaria. So whilst the SA sort of stood there and the stormtroopers stood there with their guns threatening everybody, Hitler took von Kahr and von Lossow into a side room, and no one really knows what happened in the side room. There are a few accounts. Essentially, in its simplest sense, Hitler kind of persuaded them, look, you need to side with me on this national revolution. And they went, no, I'm not doing it. Who are you? And Hitler got really, really, really irate with it. And then he basically went out to the beer hall and he went, look, they've sided with me, we're having a revolution. And everyone in the beer hall went, yay! And von Lossow and von Kahr were in this side room and they heard these cheers and went, oh, hang on, okay. And then a guy called Ludendorff, who was a supporter of Hitler and the Nazis, a First World War hero, came in and spoke to von Lossow and von Kahr and persuaded them to support Hitler. And they did. And as soon as they'd said, we'll support you on this, Hitler went, great, off you go. And he let them go, which was a bit of a mistake. Okay? Now, on the 9th of November, or 9/11, President Ebert declared a national state of emergency because of the treason that had occurred in Munich. So, and he ordered von Lossow, who was in charge of the Bavarian army, who'd been released by Hitler, to crush the revolt. Okay. Now, von Lossow still had some loyal supporters, some loyal soldiers, because the Nazis, when they kind of stormed to power and stormed in this Munich beer hall and took over Munich, they didn't take over the army barracks. So, what happened later that day, on the 9th of November, is Ludendorff and Hitler and about 2,000 to 3,000 Nazis began a march into Munich to seize power. And they were armed. And they were met by some armed police and soldiers. There was a little bit of argy-bargy going on, some rubber truncheons and some stuff like that. But then it all escalated when someone fired a shot. Now, we don't know for sure who it was, whether it was the police or whether it was the Nazis, but it doesn't really matter. A shot was fired and then poof, it all went nuts. And the shooting lasted for about a minute. But at the end of that minute, there were, depends on which source you read, some say 14, some say 16. I'm going to go with 16. 16 Nazis were dead and 3 policemen were dead. Hitler was sort of pulled to the ground or fell to the ground, and he dislocated his shoulder, and he kind of escaped and ran off. Ludendorff kept marching towards the police, and they just arrested him and took him to prison. 2 days later, on the 11th of November, Hitler was arrested, and in February 1924, there was a trial of those Nazis. All right, and they were accused of treason, which is like the ultimate crime against your state. Now, normally it's treason. You're executed. So Ludendorff, Hitler, and other Nazi leaders were put on trial for treason in Bavaria. Okay, now that's the events really. It's the storming of the beer hall and letting von Lossow and von Kahr go, to the state of emergency being declared and Ebert ordering von Lossow to crush the revolt, and then thirdly the march, the exchange of shots, and then the collapse of the putsch. All right, but the results are probably the key thing. Well, they're definitely the key thing, I'll be honest. Hitler used his trial to brilliant effect. He was an amazing orator, and he used the trial to gain national fame and popularity. What he did in the trial was he attacked the Weimar Republic, and he was so convincing and passionate in his explanation of his beliefs, his sense of German nationalism and what he truly believed. He became massively popular. Newspapers all over Germany were picking up the story. Newspapers internationally were picking up the story. He became super famous. The judges, because remember that we talked a little bit earlier about how judges in Germany tended to be more right-wing, they were actually very sympathetic to Hitler and the Nazis and what they tried to do. Now, Ludendorff was acquitted, which means let off. He was there by accident. He'd used that excuse prior to this, I think in 1920 with the cat putsch. Got away with it, worked second time, so it's always a good excuse for you. Hitler, unfortunately, Hitler wasn't let off. He was given the minimum sentence possible for treason, which is 5 years. Okay, and he was sent to jail, to a prison called Landsberg, Landsberg, Landsberg prison. It wasn't a super strict maximum security prison. It was quite cool, quite nice, quite relaxed. And when he was in Landsberg prison, he wrote his book Mein Kampf. M-E-I-N, new word, K-A-M-P-F, My Struggle. Now, there were some elections straight after, in Bavaria, straight after the trial, and actually the Nazis gained a lot from this. They became the 3rd largest party in Bavaria, so it was very good for them. Really, really helped them. However, without Hitler as their leader, the Nazi party in Bavaria basically disintegrated, lost its its cohesion and started to dissolve a little bit. Fortunately for those Nazis, though, Hitler didn't serve 5 years. He served 9 months, was let out early on the 24th of December, Christmas Eve, 1924. He was released. So, results. Trial. Hitler used it to his advantage to become extremely famous and increase his popularity. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison at Landsberg, where he wrote Mein Kampf. In the elections in Bavaria, the Nazis did very well, and he was released, fourthly, on the 24th of December 1924, after only 9 months. Okay? Munich Putsch is a super cool bit of history. Causes, events, results, as always, just don't forget the results. Thank you.